Hello friends, today I will present a new history run. History run number 4. Join me today to learn some very interesting facts about Bucharest, the capital of Romania. Do you like running or taking romantic walks in Youth Park? But what if I told you that 100 years ago, the only people who dared to walk in that area were the poor rags, the dog catchers, the pigs and the gypsies? Would you be horrified or intrigued? Although, perhaps astonishment would be the more appropriate reaction, because few people know, or remember, that the Youth Park was laid out in the Valley of Sorrow, one of Bucharest's garbage dumps, at the beginning of the last century. It seems hard to believe that the oasis of greenery and fresh air we know today was nothing more than a nearly kilometer-long garbage dump full of steaming garbage, animal droppings, bottles, and rotting bones, surrounded by desolate terrain. How did the hipster burn his mouth? He ate his pizza before it was cool. The history of the fountains in Union Square is linked to Ceausescu's idea of getting rid of the old historical center of Bucharest and building a proud socialist city, giving it a megalomaniac architectural glory that the poor square had never seen before. The perfect excuse was the earthquake of '77, which destroyed many buildings, a good opportunity for the country's first architect to roll up his sleeves and start razing everything that stood in the way of the greatness of the dream. The new district called Civic Center needed a major main artery, which was to start from the ministerial exedra, semicircular square, in front of the People's House, now Constitution Square, and to extend about 5 kilometers to the roundabout of Alba Iulia Square. Intended to be wider than the Champs-Élysées, the boulevard was to be called the Victory Avenue, privately called, together with the whole civic complex, Beirut and Dambovita River. Did you know that octopuses have 3 hearts? The history of the city is inextricably linked to that of the Dambovita River, which has seen everything that Bucharest stands for, from the emergence of the nucleus we now call the Old Centre, to the STRAVA Park, named after the engineer in charge of the city's systems, to the emergence of palaces and higher education institutions along the river, to the digging of the metro and up to the present day, the Bucharest delta in a stretch of water that no longer seems to mean anything to the city. This city has, like many other European capitals, a watercourse. That it was formed around it. From the 1980s to the present day, the Dambovita has remained a diagonal road through the city, which had as a decorative element a gleam of water between the concrete. Under the river, the sewage system was dug and the metro ran alongside it. Incidentally, a famous joke at the time said that the Danube flows into the Black Sea and the Dambovita into the metro, which still partially floods today. The project was a demonstration of engineering mastery, in which the idea of the river as a natural resource of the city became strictly something artificial, decorative. This is the great paradox of the Dambovita. A concreted natural river becomes a utilitarian element, while the artificial lakes in the north of the city, Herăstrău, laid out in marshy areas, come to be perceived as natural recreational areas. What did one elevator say to the other? I think I'm coming down with something. The year 1919 marked the founding in Romania of the Opera Society, which after 2 years passed into the care of the state and became the Romanian Opera. The inaugural performance of the new institution took place on December 20, 1921 and was a special event, presenting the opera Lohengrin by Wagner, conducted by George Enescu. The new premises of the Romanian Opera were built in 1953, providing a more sumptuous setting for the country's first opera stage, the opera itself becoming an institution, separate from the operetta and theatre performances with which it had functioned until then. I tried to win a suntanning competition, but all I got was bronze. In 1986, in the midst of a megalomaniac psychosis, Ceausescu was not only building huge buildings, he was also looking after his citizens' thirst for culture, which is why he wanted to build an impressive museum. The unfinished colossus, known to the people of Bucharest as the Radio House, was to be completed in 1992 and would house the National Museum of the History of the Socialist Republic of Romania. But the revolution came with a sudden thunderclap, and in the aftermath of communism, a sinister building was left behind, about which horror stories are still told today. To erect the building, an old racecourse was demolished, which had functioned on the exact site of the Radio House between the 1950s and 1980s. Before the racecourse, in the interwar period, the space was the Venus Sports Space, the name of a former interwar football club that operated between 1914 and 1948. But football and riding were too profane an activity for the communists who dreamed of doing something grand in that key spot of Bucharest. Although unfinished, the building was even officially inaugurated on the 23rd of August 1989, when the traditional military parade held on the former National Day was held for the first time in front of the new building. It was to be the last August 23rd celebrated by Ceausescu. After the fall of communism, the radio house also fell into oblivion. For many years it was a sort of homeless paradise, and an urban myth still peddled by local residents tells the story of a student who allegedly committed suicide by throwing herself off the building in 1992 and whose ghost still haunts the area, which is also known for its unusually high incidence of tragic road accidents. In 2003, the land and the building were taken over by a major foreign firm which set out to build a futuristic residential and tourist development. Dambovita Center was named the complex that was supposed to take the place of the communist building. Work began in 2008 but was halted a year later because of the economic crisis. The project included office buildings and shops. The complex was supposed to impress with its grandeur, including 3 blocks, 5-star hotel rooms and a London-like Ferris wheel from which people could admire the city from above. Several non-governmental organizations opposed the project. Why are crabs so bad at sharing? Because they're all shellfish. This is the building where I work. Usually, because as of March 2020, since the start of the pandemic, I work from home. As an idea, the building under construction next door was in the pit stage when I was still at the office. What do Miss Piggy and Yoda have in common? They were both voiced by the same person, puppeteer Frank Oz. The beauty of the lake attracts not only people eager for a few moments of relaxation, but also lovers of supernatural stories. The glimmering water hides stories full of drama and mystery. More than 400 houses, 2 schools, a church and a cemetery have been demolished to make way for Lake Mill. The need to build a dam to prevent the Dambovita River from overflowing led Nicolae Ceausescu to speed up the work. The construction of the 𝐇𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐨𝐫𝐲 dam and the lake took a little over a year, July 1985, August 21, 1986. This haste led to numerous tragedies among those living in the area. Residents in the area that was to be flooded by the waters of the Dambovita River were forced to move, which led to real tragedies. As well as being forced to abandon their homes, residents were also forced to move their dead relatives. The time limit for moving was strict. Bulldozers went over all the bodies that had not been relocated within the period imposed by the communist regime. Urban legends are also fueled by the demolition of the Church of St. Nicholas. This was the oldest building in the area. Built in 1564, according to the inscription inside the church not only served as a place of prayer, but also had a strategic role. The surrounding land was marshy and access was only possible by a bridge, which could be raised if necessary. The place of worship was one of the first buildings to be demolished. The fact that the demolition took place on Saints Constantine and Helena has increased the stories of curses. Immediately after the work was completed, legends began about souls who could not find peace because their graves had been desecrated. There are many stories, especially from fishermen, that various strange lights, silhouettes and sounds appear at night. Also, fans of supernatural stories attribute the high number of accidents in the area to curses. An artificial island has been built on the lake, which was supposed to become a major attraction in the area. After the fall of the communist regime, the authorities neglected the area. Degradation and squalor in turn fuel the horror stories. Do you know, the original name for the search engine Google was Backrub. It was renamed Google after the Good Hall, which is the number 1 followed by 100 zeros. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you watching. Thank you. Please subscribe. I'm so curious to see where this channel is going to go next and I would love for you to be part of the journey. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time.